everybody, Jeremy Hubbard here with another episode of Fire the Cannon, and we are so glad you're joining us. And it was kind of fun last week to hear from everybody who was excited about the show being back, and we're super excited to bring that back. I wanted to mention a few things to you before we get started today with our show. First off, I want to just say thank you to Brett Swinney and the NetSN guys for helping us out, getting Fire the Cannon on the air for you to watch. Also, we're streaming all of our football games, home and away. If you want to go back and watch any of our football games, varsity football games, go on YouTube, search NetSN. You can find those games. Also, want to make sure you know that we're streaming all of our home volleyball games and sub-varsity football games on a new website that Huddle has put out. Huddle, of course, is who records our games, and we can share film and all that. But go to Huddle Fan. If you go to Google and search Huddle, HUDL Fan, and then search Brook Hill, you can find all the games we have. So any home varsity volleyball games, JV football games, middle school football games, all those can be found on Huddle Fan. Also want to make sure and note, we're going to talk to Coach Dawkins about this next week on the show, hopefully. But the Brook Hill Golf Classic is taking place October 21st. You can contact Tiffany Hubbard in the athletic office if you want to either be a sponsor or play. You can do all those things. And about that, we talked a little bit about this last week. Coach Wilson and I did. A lot of the auction items are starting to come out. We're releasing those slowly. We talked last week about Mr. Brady has put together a pair of custom Nike Dunks that you can bid on to win those. We released this week, ran some golf clubs, a couple of drivers, wedges, putters, things like that. Also, tickets to the American Airlines Center game. The boys and girls basketball teams will be taking on Dallas Christian on Friday, January 3rd at the American Airlines Center. We're going to be giving away 2 tickets. Now, those 2 tickets will get you into the Brook Hill game, but also into the Mavericks game that night as they take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those will be available for you to bid on as well. And also, we announced during the football game Friday, AJ Minner has provided us some Braves memorabilia that's autographed if you want to take part in that as well. So there we have it. That's all the things that are going on now. Big week in athletics. Thursday night, varsity volleyball is at Grace. Friday night, varsity football is at Grace. And so a lot of things happening around the Brook Hill School this week. And we hope you'll join us for all those things and enjoy Fire the Cannon. All right, Jeremy Hubbard here with head cross country coach Josiah White. And coach, last time we talked, we were talking about going over to Union Grove and I guess the challenge that gave you because you didn't really know the course, but you gave your kids a chance to compete. Pretty good weekend for you guys. 10 PR set. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, it really was good. I was proud of our kids. We raced well, really got after it and competed and got, like you saw, got some fast times.
Uh, some of the guys and girls that had really good days. Blair Brister finished 24th, your top finisher in the varsity girls. Addie Green 17th in the middle school girls, and then Brock Cabot, your top finisher in the middle school boys. But the one that you and I were talking about over the weekend actually was Jose Gonzalez, who ran the second fastest 5K time at Brook Hill. That's pretty good. 18 minutes, 16 seconds.
Yeah, so he had a really big PR. After we were done, I said, hey, man, you're getting close. After his race was over, we came back here in lunch. I said, hey, you're getting close to breaking the school record. And he said, Coach, you should have told me. I said, does that mean you would have run faster? And he's like, yeah. So we don't want that to be the case. I was like, hey, run as fast as you can every time. But just did a great job. Got his head and his heart in it and went and competed. And I think, honestly, that he will eventually break that record.
Yeah, you and I were talking up there. I think you said 12 seconds is what he's short.
14 seconds.
14 seconds.
So, yeah.
He's got a good shot to do that. And actually, his next race will be here at Brook Hill, which would be even a more impressive feat to do it here.
Exactly.
But the course is going to be a little tougher here.
Yeah, the kids know the course. We've been running on it here recently. So I've got, for those kids that really want to break and have a PR, hey, here's where you need to be. And you know, on our course, if you're at this spot at this time, then you've got a really good chance.
They do have the advantage of knowing, last week we talked about the loop system, right? And you kind of know where to be there. And I guess here there's no loop, but at the same time, you do have those markers.
Yeah, that familiarity helps.
He was obviously your athlete of the week. Again, I think it's his second time to be the athlete of the week. Talk a little bit about his work ethic, because I know that we were watching him during practice. The football guys were just talking about him and the way he works and the way he goes about his business, and that says a lot about why he's able to do what he can do.
Yeah, I couldn't talk about his work ethic enough and ask any more from him. I'm in the weight room as well. uh, during the day. He works hard down there, but there's just a sharpness and a crispness about what he does. So when he comes, we talk about when our feet hit the turf at 6:30, our feet need to be on the turf. We've got to be intentional, and he's done that.
And I think the impressive part is, like, I'm not even sure, like we talked about before, that he's a cross country kid. Like, he's a soccer
Yeah,
player who's
yeah,
doing it and
yeah,
doing great things. One last thing before I let you go, I do want to talk about this. The next meet will be here, the Warrior Run, on October 12th.
yep,
Obviously, we've talked a lot about that, and you just kind of mentioned the kids and kind of how they're preparing. But also, I want to mention again the 5K, because that's
yeah.
something that you've done now. This will be the second year to do this. Talk a little bit about that for those who haven't heard and how they can get involved.
Yeah, so the 5K will start at 7 a.m. It's open to anybody, running enthusiasts, whether you're good at running or you're not good at running, you can come and run the 5K. The unique thing about it, what people got back with me last year, it's on a cross country course.
Yeah.
And you don't have very many 5Ks that are like that. So it's a great course, a chance to get out there, and we'll give you plenty of time to finish before we send the middle schoolers after you.
I was gonna say, man, like it's one thing to come out and run a 5K, but then you got to do it on these hills. And I watch your guys who train every day try to run up the hill, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
if you haven't trained, you're not gonna make it. But we're looking forward to that next week, and we'll talk more about that for sure. If you want to join that 5K, you can contact the athletic office, and they can get you set up. I think there's some links on social media. I think
Yeah.
Travis Albee posted it in the Brook Hill app,
Yep.
and you can do all those things. So we're getting near the end, and we're getting to the point where your guys, you've mentioned the different phases you guys are in, and this is kind of the final stretch of, okay, now we're getting ready to go to the state level and really give ourselves a chance to win. I know you feel confident you got some guys and girls ready to do that.
Yeah. With with our three top runners right now that have already qualified, I feel really good about where they are in our training.
Yeah,
And ultimately, what I remind them of is we can only control what we can
sure.
control. And I think we've done a good job of that leading into this. Can we control whether or not we peak at state? I can, I unfortunately or fortunately, I probably control a little bit more of that than I'd like to. But the good thing is we're seeing that that's paid off. Our
Yeah,
kids are peaking at the right time.
for sure, and they're working hard. So looking forward to see what happens in 2 weeks at the Warrior Run, and then on to state after that. And we'll visit next week here again with Coach White. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, back here with head football coach Scott Ryle. And Coach, last Friday, one of those games we knew going in was going to be tough. And if you were at the game, kind of the flow of it was different. Down 21-14 at the half, come back, tied up, start the third quarter, and then it's kind of went a different direction, and we lose 42-21. But a lot of great things come out of that loss.
No, it did, and I think it showed a lot of resilience from our team, being down two scores and tying it up in the third quarter. Obviously, they're a really good football team. There's a reason that they're usually in the state championship game. But I loved how our kids competed and fought throughout the game.
I thought one of the cool things about it was you could kind of tell on their sideline during the game and watching their players and coaches, they haven't been in a fight like that in a long time. And quite honestly, it may not be for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it'll refocus them, but also I think when you just watch who they've played, like we were as physical as they've played against in a
Yeah,
while.
we played just a different brand of football offensively, and we're going to come at you. And that's hard to simulate in practice, and I think that gives us the advantage.
The athlete of the week last week had a great game. Braxton Durrett, I think he had 130, 140 rushing yards, something like that. But what we are not talking about is really how he's had to step in and play a lot more defense with kind of the number situation and him playing a lot more. Just really had a great game on both sides.
Yeah, he's a great player and a great teammate. Obviously, two-time captain, and uh, him and Sam have to share a little time on defense to get them rest because we need them both on offense. I mean, they're both great players, and so they share the time on defense, and he did a great job.
Yeah, he's really had a good year all around. It's been solid, but it's just been other guys at different times have had great nights. It was just another classic Braxton Durrett performance, quite honestly. One more thing from last week I do want to bring up before we move on is the JV game on Thursday. Kind of set the tone for Friday.
Right.
Is getting a 12-6 win against DC, and those guys who I tell them all the time, JV football is the hardest thing in the world to do. I think because you have to play scout team a lot, then you work your stuff, and anytime somebody plays really well, they go to the varsity, and
Right.
to come out and play the way they did, probably in the years I've been around here, probably the best JV game I felt like in a while at least.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun on Thursday. A lot of different guys made a lot of different plays. Gandy just played unbelievable running the football, and like you said, when you play well on Thursday, you find yourself playing on Friday the next week, and I think you're going to see a few of those guys play on Friday for the weeks to come. It was a great game on
It's
Thursday.
a bright future. They played hard for sure. All right, so it's that week, right? It's fun to look at last week, and you look ahead to this week, and this is the one that everybody circles on the calendar. Everybody, not just the football team, not the coaches, the players, but it's everybody looking forward to this. Going over to Grace on Friday night. Um, they knocked off Brentwood last week, 42-35, which Brentwood definitely not Regents, but they're going to be in the mix now. When you see them on film, they're a pretty good football team. Talk a little bit about what Grace has done this year, because when you look at the film, they provide some challenges for a lot of people.
Yeah, they Coach Russell has done a heck of a job over there. He's done since he's been there, done a good job both offense and defense. Offense is a little different this year, a little more tight end play, but they're a good football team. We're gonna have to do a good job on Friday to compete.
I think one of the things you've talked to the team about that's difficult about this week is ignoring the noise.
Right.
It's all the stuff around it, because like I said a minute ago, it's usually in a normal game week, we're excited about the game. We know about the game, and everybody's like, "Oh, how are they? Are we going to win?" And this week, it's like, we know who they are, and you got to win, right? So
Right.
it's everybody. So how do you kind of get the guys to eliminate that a little bit, because that's probably the biggest task of the week.
Yeah, and I think that was a discussion we had on Monday. Don't worry about the other stuff. Let's worry
Yeah,
about the game on Friday. And I also told them I shouldn't have to motivate you, and I don't think I have to motivate them throughout the week. They've practiced well and been really focused in. And I think, in the years past, sometimes we might have got involved in some of the other stuff. And I think this group, especially the senior leadership, understands that that's not what we're about. That's not what we need to be about. If we want to win on Friday, we got to focus on our job.
and I think obviously you've been here long enough that like you understand the rivalry. One of the seniors the other day in practice mentioned to me just in passing, like, "Coach, I kind of just realized this is the last time I get to do this,"
Mm-hmm.
because it still is a big game. It still is important to a lot of people. It's going to be the one that they remember. Uh, and you mentioned the motivation part. The week of practice has looked a lot different. We've been kind of, I feel like, really locked in this week, even more so than we have been.
Yeah, this week's a special week, obviously, for us as coaches, for both of our boys.
Yeah, for sure.
And I reminded them of my rivalry game that I lost, and it just kills me that my senior year I lose, and I don't want that for them. So they've done a good job responding to that.
That game Friday, 7 o'clock kickoff. I have to remember this every week now. 7 o'clock kickoff. We have stands now on our side, so that's a
Yeah,
bonus. You don't have to get there as early now, but get there early and be ready to go for that one. It'll be fun. Friday night at 7 o'clock over at Clyde Perkins. Um, and of course, if you're not there, you can see that game on NetSN. We appreciate Brett and those guys obviously for doing that, but you can see that on Friday at 7. Coach, looking forward to it. It'll be fun here in a couple of days.
yeah, I look forward to it too.
All right, thanks. All right, back here with head volleyball coach Savannah Wilson. And coach, a lot's been going on since we talked last. A lot actually, including Friday. You hosted Regents here, and it didn't go the way we wanted to. We lost 3-2. In what I've heard a few people describe as the best high school volleyball game they've watched. I only got to watch a little bit of it, and I thought it was a very competitive game. Talk a little bit about that, maybe what you learned from it.
I mean, it was a great match, and I think the girls learned a lot, especially because, we went 5 sets and it wasn't the outcome that we wanted. We had a few errors in pretty crucial times, but
Yeah.
like you said, it was one of the greatest volleyball matches I've been a part of as a coach.
They have a number of, I say number, a couple of D1 players, and when you watch them, it's like, okay, yeah, they're D1, but then there were other ones, and I was like, how is she not D1? I mean, they were just,
Right.
and when you get in a bigger town like that, you get a lot of girls who play club, and that's probably all they do. And I thought it was a really good performance for us, and you were able to bounce back and win last night against Tyler Heat in a game that didn't start well. I was a little nervous. We got a kind of a lead in the first game. Ended up losing the first game, I think 25, 23, or 22, something
Yeah.
like that. And then we kind of settled in and got the win. Talk a little bit about the resiliency to bounce back from last Friday, lose the first game, and then win the next three to get out of there.
I think, kind of what we talked about in between sets was, champions are set apart.
Yeah.
And, it kind of takes a mindset of, okay, that wasn't great, but let's move on and let's try something different. And I definitely think, the girls did that.
Yeah, the second set they looked a lot different. And I know the third set even got uglier, 25-11 or something like that. So a good performance to come back and get that win, and it sets you up for talking to Coach Riley about the same thing. It's that week, and it's just your first time as the head coach in this thing. You've been around it, but it's a different feel. And I think that the coaches feed off of it, the girls feel off of it. Forget about the game part for a second, but how do you kind of manage the tension, for lack of a better word, and how you go through the week knowing that's coming?
Well, I definitely think for, my kids, it's more like, they're tense. they're worried about it, they're excited about it, but it's kind of channeling that more in our play. Okay,
Yeah.
play a little bit more aggressive. Let's get that way. Let's use it through our mouths instead of, freaking out.
No, I think that's an important thing is you have to channel that the right way because it can either eat you alive or it can spur you on. And I think now on the court, forget about the rivalry piece. If this was any other opponent, it's just a big game in general because whoever wins this game probably finishes in the top three spots,
Right.
which gets you a home playoff game. And so that's and a bye in the first round. So that's a big deal. I know you've seen them on film. Kind of what do you expect from them as far as on the floor?
I definitely expect, a pretty resilient team. They don't give up easily. They're not going to just hand us the game, especially at home. And I definitely think that's something that we're going to struggle with, but I think the girls have done a really good job, mentally preparing.
We kind of compare football to volleyball and going over there, and it's different because outside it's a little less crazy, I guess is the word. It's kind of crazy in the gym, being there for basketball a few times, but that atmosphere will be great. The JV game is at 5 tomorrow. The varsity game is at 6, and unique theme night. Chapel dress, we'll go with it. There's reasons, I guess. But we need a big crowd because that's a game that you need to have that mojo and that atmosphere has to be more balanced than if you're just going over there.
Right.
I want to talk about your athlete of the week last week, Brett Lee Beller, and just watching Brett Lee play over the last few times I've got to see her has just kind of been a steady force back there defensively for you. Talk a little bit about her play.
Her play has progressed so much over this season. Mentally, physically, she has just been somebody that, honestly, if she wasn't there, I don't know that our team would be as sound as they were. She definitely is, moving on next ball, and she really gets those girls bought into that.
So congratulations to Brett Lee on being the player of the week. Remember, 5 o'clock JV game on Thursday over at Grace, 6 o'clock varsity game. Home again on Tuesday,
Yep.
right? Who's Tuesday night?
Scary roster.
Okay, so another non-district game. I know that non-district
Actually,
district's
no,
good.
Hyde Park.
Okay, I was like, all right, I knew there was a week in there where it should be right. So Hyde Park here next Tuesday, that's a big game too. It's a district game. They have not had the success, but I think they're maybe a game right behind us in the standings.
Yep.
Without knowing who they're playing. So Tuesday night be a big game here. Varsity only. 5 o'clock, 4:30.
I think it's 5 o'clock.
We'll let you know. But
Yeah.
I think listen, it's hard for all of us to remember these start times as we go through this. So, Coach, good luck to you tomorrow, and then we'll talk to you next week. So there you have it, another week down here on Fire the Cannon. We're glad that you joined us today. Make sure and tune in every Wednesday as we give you episodes of Fire the Cannon. Just as a reminder, Thursday night volleyball, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock start over there at Grace, and then Friday night football, 7 p.m. kickoff at Grace. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week here on Fire the Cannon.